morning. Retired Lieutenant Colonel and National Defense expert Misty Martin with us today. Also with us this morning, retired Brigadier General, former Deputy Military Rep to NATO and Newsmax contributor General Blaine Holt. Also foreign policy expert Harley Lippman jumping into our conversation on this busy morning to unpack what has developed overnight. Good morning to everyone. Thanks for being here.
Morning.
Good morning.
So we were 88 minutes away from go time when the president pushed out that message that the 2-week ceasefire agreement had been reached between the two sides. The president wrote on Truth Social this morning, in fact, after that announcement last night, a big day for world peace. Iran wants it to happen. They've had enough. Likewise, so has everyone else, the president wrote. The U.S. will be helping with the traffic buildup in the Strait of Hormuz. This could be the golden age of the Middle East. Harley, the ships are moving in the Strait, a couple of them so far this morning. Markets already reacting. Your thoughts?
Well, it's certainly a relief and feels good. The danger in that is this the calm before the storm, because there's a sense of fatigue in the United States with this war. People don't want the war to go on. But that's a feeling. Everybody's feeling more comfortable and happier. But the problems still remain. And unless we deal with the root causes here and address these problems, it will come back to bite us. And it will be worse then, as they'll reconstitute their missile program, their nuclear program. And so there has to be a real solution with these peace talks that address all the issues that President Trump had presented to Iran all this time. No nuclear, no missiles, no proxies. And what about the liberation and freedom of the Iranian people?
We'll see. That's to be seen and to be negotiated potentially Friday. We'll see if that meeting indeed takes place. Word, meanwhile, General, that Keir Starmer is coming off the sidelines, headed to the Middle East now, at this point. Potentially a unified joint military operation. What would that look like? And, you know, you heard Secretary of War Pete Hegseth saying, we're in the background now. Our job is done, basically, was his message this morning. We're here to babysit, if you will.
Yeah, Keir Starmer going to the region is a little bit duplicitous in my view. NATO has already basically shown its cards about where they're at with the United States and support. So if the ceasefire were to hold, and I'm not altogether convinced that it will at all, then the Brits might toss in a few patrol ships to help escort vessels out. I don't see a whole lot of movement in the Straits right now. I've seen 4 ships, 3 of them Chinese, that are going through. But here's what the ceasefire could do for us. In that time, you've got a lot of trust issues now in a wounded regime that is on its last legs in Iran, while a building revolutionary movement is getting ready to go. And so the next 2 weeks we'll see them marinating in a lot of these trust issues, and will that weaken them in a position that what we really want to have happen is the Iranians to take back their nation. I think that's the way this goes, or some version of it. But this is by no means the end of this thing.
Yeah, Missy, everyone is very skeptical. We've been to the precipice of a ceasefire deal before, and then it falls apart. Your thoughts this morning?
As somebody who has served in combat in Iraq and Afghanistan, I have enormous respect for the men and women that are currently serving. They're doing what we ask of them. At the same time, though, we do have to be honest that a successful, military action or rescue doesn't mean that we've solved the larger situation. Americans are already feeling the impact through higher prices in several areas, fuel, transportation, groceries. And when there's instability in the Middle East, it affects the global energy markets, our supply chains, and those costs are reaching our working families. So we can support our troops and be proud of what they're accomplishing, but also recognizing that our military actions are having these long-term economic and strategic effects. So I think it's a responsibility of our leaders to have a clear plan for what's coming next and to minimize the burden on the American people. and, have confidence in our senior military leadership.
You just heard from Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and General Kane laying out the successes, the many successes that have already taken place, really stopping short of saying mission accomplished. But that's in essence the messaging out of the Pentagon this morning. Let's listen to this quick clip.
They know this agreement means that they will never, ever possess a nuclear weapon. Under the terms, any nuclear material they should have will be removed. Any material, they should not have will be removed. The president has been clear from the beginning, there will be no Iranian nuclear weapons. Period. Full stop. Other presidents said it. President Trump did it.
There was a follow-up question from the press corps in this briefing that asked, what does that look like? If there's no nuclear and we're going to go get the remnants, does that mean we engage militarily once again, boots on the ground? Your thoughts after that back and forth out of that briefing this morning?
Goes up to me.
General, I'm sorry. I said general, and then Harley will go to you.
No, I missed that part.
No worries.
So where we're at is I don't see a boots on the ground scenario at all, unless the free Iranian people have opened the doors up and said, hey, come help us stabilize our country, and the uranium's over here, come get it. But again, the big question strategically is, do you leave in Iran with a regime that can eventually reconstitute itself, be revenge-minded, and then create terror and trouble for Americans for the rest, for infinity? Mm-hmm. That's what can't happen. So what'll probably, if we do get to Islamabad for negotiations on Friday, part of that's going to be, well, how are the Iranian people going to now participate in their government because you guys are not in charge anymore?
Absolutely.
And if that doesn't happen, well, then it can happen another way. And that's probably the way it's going to track. But I don't think we're going to go parachute anybody in there and go get that uranium under force of arms. I think we'll let this thing evolve. Time is on our side. We own the timeline. Harley says that America's war weary. Well, we're weary of wars from going back to 9/11. We would like to see this get wrapped up, but we want it to be appropriate, not a Band-Aid.
Harley, your thoughts on the uranium?
Yeah, it's exactly right. Remember, that's the top goal of President Trump, is to make sure they don't get a nuclear bomb. And if the United States gets that in an agreement that is truly enforceable with inspections anytime, anywhere, I suspect that may be sufficient for the Trump administration, because they may feel that since Iran is so damaged militarily, they can't really help their proxies anyway. And if they don't have nuclear weapons, even with ICBMs, the missile issue, it may make the missile issue not as critical as it was before. So I think the big issue is the nuclear aspect of this, the enriched uranium, and making sure the United States gets an agreement with Iran to get it. And that may close a chapter here. That doesn't mean it's good. As you guest pointed out, the Iranian people are yearning for freedom, and the best of America is to be a liberator, and I hope we are faithful to that.
Yeah, Pakistan at the head of the table here for negotiations. Axios is reporting, though, that the supreme leader himself, Mujtaba Khamenei, the son of the previous Khamenei, instructed his negotiators specifically to move forward with this ceasefire deal. Here's this photo. We shared it a moment ago as the general was talking. Egypt, Turkey, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, all of these recent meetings trying to move in a direction in the last 48 hours or so, and really pushing Iran now to get to this ceasefire. These Middle Eastern countries, Misty, and Europe, all impacted. However, China, and General, if you can jump in on this too, Misty first, apparently jumped in the last 24 hours, really pushing for this.
Yeah, I think that, I guess one of the concerns is, and they brought this up, is the planning, though. What is our long-term plan? What is our long-term goals? You can have an initial goal, but, we have to plan for the next step and the step after that. And so my concern is the fact that, in general, speaking of like 9/11, this has been going on, but we have senior leaders and we need that continuity and experience. Personally, I would not have chosen to remove senior officers during a period of heightened instability and ongoing operations. I think we need that, judgment, integrity, and leadership to make some of these difficult decisions that are going to come up. This is going to continue to be a complex situation, and we need, that leadership that has been there and that has experienced, not only one regime but multiple ones, and understands what could happen, in the multiple courses of action that we might have to deal with.
General, my control room's pushing me to break here. I'll get your thoughts on China being involved and what's at stake for them in another interview another day. Thanks so much to our panel this morning. Retired Lieutenant Colonel Misty Martin, General Blaine Holt, foreign policy expert Harley Lippman. Good to see all of you. Thank you.